We start with Ben surrounded by crazed fans as he calls out to Kevin to get the car as he hits the Ultimatrix, intending on changing into goop, but ending up with Wrath. The fans started trying to grab at his fur, and he lets out a loud and angry roar as his arm blades jutted out more, scaring them away as Kevin pulls up, and he changes back, getting into the back seat, annoyed that people wouldn't leave him alone. Ben gets a call from someone, the same species as Ripjaws, named Magister Pike. They'd said that they were to report any sightings of this being to Magister Ben Tennyson while showing a hologram of Agrigor. They asked who they are exactly and why it was so urgent that they contact them immediately, and Ben says that's classified, however they would be there soon to help take care of the villain. We then see them going to the planet that looked to be almost completely nothing but water except for the core of the planet. The three of them dove out of the cargo bay, and Ben tells Ship to find the nearest world he could relax upon and wait for them. Ship barks his name and flies away. They make their way down to the lower depths, and a creature tried to grab Gwen, but Ben used his plasma blade, which is not made of fire, and sliced through the appendage that was wrapped around her, as he prepared to keep fighting them off. Thankfully, they were able to get rid of them without any of the suits being damaged. They continue on down further towards the planetary core to meet up with Magister Pike, and Gwen asks just how long they have before they run out of oxygen exactly. And Ben says that so long as the suits aren't damaged that they wouldn't. To which Kevin adds, "Thank you, plumber gill filtration system." As they were swimming, someone swam up to them. Pike tells them about what happened, and Ben asks Gwen if she's got a reading on Agrigor, to which she says that she does, and that he's headed towards the planetary core. They all began to swim down to that area, where they see Agrigor fighting off some of the others of Pike's species. Ben changes into amphibian and grabs some of the native fish that would fire darts from them when spooked, and used them to fight off Agrigor, though why was something a bit more complicated, as he told Gwen and Kevin to do the same as he was doing. Kevin grabbed a couple and started riding on a stingray too, as the other guards began to get distance between themselves and Agrigor. Seeing Ben and his friends helping the guards, Agrigor got angry and took a stance that they'd seen before, and Ben called out to Agrigor not to, but it was too late. Agrigor tried to charge up an electric blast using Rad's powers, only to be blasted himself, along with everything else in the area around them. Thankfully, that wasn't one of our heroes or the plumbers or guards, though. Kevin asks what just happened, to which Gwen answers that water and electricity are a bad combination when you're the one in the water, as Agrigor moaned slightly but slowly began to move again and headed into the core area, as our plumber crew followed after him along with Pike, though Agrigor had already gotten ahead of them and was headed off towards the core of the planet. The planetary core had started shaking as Gwen threw up a magic barrier to protect them from falling debris, and they began to make their way towards the center of the core, where there was a machine that would keep the planet together. Pike tells them that they must stop Agrigor from getting the core of the machine, but it was too late. He'd already taken it. All they could do now was try to stop him from leaving and get it back. They began fighting with Agrigor, who'd managed to hold them off for a bit, but Ben changed into forearms again, asking if they were gonna have a rematch. I began to fight with the tyrant as they were trying to stop them from getting away, though we see outside parts of the planet were starting to float away. The other guards had come into the core to help fight off the intruder, mistakenly thinking that Ben and his crew were them at first, until Pike told them that Agrigor was the one who'd stolen it and that the others were helping them get it back, which helped increase their numbers, with Forearms slamming his hands together, creating a shockwave that knocked back Agrigor, who dropped a piece in the process. Kevin dashed for the piece since he was the closest, but was shot by one of the guards, making Ben angry as he punched them into a wall. They'd said they knew the outsiders couldn't be trusted, and Pike says that Radom had no idea what they were going to do. He just assumed they were all there to steal it, showing that he did know the guards by name. Agrigor took that opportunity and grabbed the map piece as they tried to refocus on them, but he'd managed to slip away this time, getting the prize. Radom says that he was right to attack the outsiders, as that one had just gotten away with the stabilizer, but was slammed into the ground by Pike, who'd placed them into energy cups. Ben says that he's got an idea of something that might be able to help, and changes into goop, going over to the machine. He then took the little disc above his head and placed it into the machine. As it began to spin, happened slowly at first, but then began getting faster and faster, pulling goop into the machine with it, and him vanishing into thin air with the machine still present. Gwen called out Ben's name, looking upset, as Kevin says that it seems like he was atomized, as the readings began showing that the planet was slowly starting to gravitize together and bits of the water began to turn green in color and reform. Though it was a slow process, the planet eventually read that it had returned to about 97%, what it used to be, showing most of the water had thankfully returned, and the green glow began to move away from the edges and towards a singular spot before changing into Ben. Kevin had called for ship, and they finally were able to get out of there and get those plumber suits off, but Agrigor had the second map piece, meaning they were now 1-to-1. Hopefully they could stop him, as Ben coughed out water, saying that he didn't want to have to go back there and hopefully ever again.